Welcome to our first learning path. In this learning path, we're going to discuss the Microsoft 365 Extensibility Fundamentals. This first module, we are going to review the Copilot extensibility options. Let's review the agent types. Let's also dig a little bit deeper into declarative agents and custom engine agents. And finally, let's discuss the graph connectors and how to add the skills with plugins. By the end of this module, you will understand how Copilot and agents collaborate to create a personalized assistant, the type and the capabilities of the agents for Microsoft 365 Copilot, and how to ground responses using multiple enterprise data sources. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your intelligent assistant. It enhances productivity in the business processes. We've seen how easy it is to be able to look at Copilot and be able to have a conversation with that interface. So we're going to learn more about how to leverage that. We see that Copilot also understands your data. It works the confound of your data, your tenant. And it is integrated seamlessly with Microsoft apps. So if you're working with Word, PowerPoint, Windows, or many other integrated apps, there is also an opportunity in there. You can begin to optimize your workflow using Copilot. We can unlock significant value across business functions by leveraging Copilot. This includes increasing value and reducing cost. We can also enable Copilot to manage business processes for automation, for further enhancing effectiveness. This is also accomplished with autonomous agents, and we're going to touch base on those, although they are in preview at the moment. So autonomous agents operate on behalf of your processes. They collaborate with you and your employees, providing comprehensive support and automation. Again, remember those are in preview, so we are not going to dive too deep into them. Now, we envision every employee having a personalized Copilot. We can customize our agents with developer tools such as Azure AI Studio. We also can use Azure Cognitive Services, Bot Framework, and a variety of other Microsoft conversational services. We can also analyze your agent's performance. As we build these agents, we want to see how the team is using and, of course, the response times. So by accessing built-in conversational analytics that automatically tracks and, of course, see the performance of each one of those agents that we built and the Copilot in general, it provides us this critical view of these KPIs. We can also continuously improve the conversation with AI-driven features that will help us fine-tune our agents. So even if we started with a very low code, simply drag and drop and create the agents, or if we go to a more complex, highly customized, highly coded agent, the suggestions on how to optimize will be there. So let's discuss how the extensibility of Copilots really work. Microsoft 365 is already configured. So if you think about the Microsoft 365 Copilot, it is ready to be used. It's there. Out of the box, there is the capability. But I can also customize that. I can extend this capability. So we can develop these additional knowledge, these skills, and the process for this automation. We can tailor Copilot to be our agent. And that's exactly what we're going to look at, extending these skills, extending the knowledge and these capabilities to help us optimize our processes. Now, these agents are fundamentally composed of custom knowledge. So I have instructions, I have grounding of the data, I also have custom skills, as I mentioned. This includes the actions, the triggers, and the workflows. And of course, don't forget the autonomy, be able to do things on our behalf. So including the plugins or the planning, learning, and also escalations. So these are things that I can look at from knowledge, skills, and autonomy. So my agents can contain one or multiple of these. So this orchestration is going to be critical for me to get the best out of my agent. So you can configure Copilot connectors as well. And these connectors for Microsoft 365, Power Platform, Admin Center is where you're going to configure them. So I go in, if I provide my user specific level of access, I will, in my Admin Center, provide that access, and Copilot is going to be bound to those capabilities. So this enhances Copilot knowledge and also ensures that the resilience and the responses and the capabilities will be around the access limitations that the user have. So no more, no less. If a user is not able to see content or do anything with a particular element, Copilot is going to be bound to that. The security aspect is going to be there. Agents are specialized versions of Copilot. We know that Copilot is ready to be used as is, but now I can customize even more with those agents. They automate specific business tasks, like retrieving information or sending an email. And they can also be customized for specific roles, perhaps an HR, perhaps a help desk. So now I can have onboarding capabilities for my teams with an HR agent. Or I can help to track or fix problems with a help desk agent. Here are some practical examples of what we can do and how to develop some of these agents for your organization. I have an IT help desk, I have a device refresh, I also have some lead generation agents and custom support agents. So what exactly are agents? We mentioned that Copilot agents are AI-powered assistant designed to help you with various tasks. They can also assist you with writing, researching, scheduling. They make your work easier and more effective. Think of having a smart helper that can really understand what you do, how you do, and respond to your needs. Now, all agents share the same basic elements. The complexity of the agents dictates let's say, the capabilities that they will have. If you want a very complex agent, that means you're going to have a lot of capabilities around. We may have a retrieval agent, and this agent is going to be designed for specific instructions. They follow predefined rules and guidelines that you set. I may also have a task agent. So their primary response will be basically to automate repetitive tasks that you deem needs to be automated. Hey, I don't like to wake up at 3 in the morning, right? To be able to check a particular condition on let's say, a component in my network. I can create an agent that 3 o'clock in the morning, it will wake up, will check the condition of the resource, and then go back to sleep and just send me the responses, right? This automation, it's going to be critical, the task automation. Also the autonomous, as I mentioned before, it is currently in preview, but the autonomous agents operate independently, dynamically planning, and of course, learning from those processes that you have. They will also be able to adapt and change the conditions, and of course, make decisions without constant checking on me, checking on human interactions. So those are going to be the change factor, the autonomous agents. And my goal is to have many of those autonomous agents. Agents can be built using declarative or custom agent approaches. A declarative agent, we're going to see this in action quite a bit. They use custom knowledge and skills, integrating with your Microsoft 365 Copilot and connectors. This is going to be the absolute no-code. Business users and regular users that are accustomed to their processes can create them on the fly. Now we have the custom engine agents. Those are going to offer development flexibility, but they're going to be more complex. They're going to require access to specific tools and may not be to the range of every one of your users. More of your developing team will be focusing on those. Now, what are declarative agents? And we're going to spend a little bit of time on the declarative agents. And declarative agents allow you to customize Microsoft 365 Copilot by declaring instructions, actions, and knowledge that you want the agent to do. They run on the same infrastructure and AI services. So we are not going to customize any resources in there. No large language model, no configuration. This is going to be as is, but with some customization. These agents provide personalized experiences and, of course, automated processes like onboarding and, of course, custom issues and so forth. I can simply point to a process or point to a content, and the agent is able to reason with that content. We did talk about some of these agents. An example of the two agents that we have available, we built them in, and you can try, would be, for example, the employee self-service help. Right? Imagine a world where your employees can save their, or in this case, not exactly save time, but they can serve themselves. If they need to, once they begin the onboarding process, they know exactly how to access those resources, being documented, the technical issues that they find, how exactly they're going to go through the IT workflows, building these resources. So I can build declarative agents that will be able to help my employees resolve issues, common issues. This could be access to, maybe there's a SharePoint location where the content is. Maybe I have a OneDrive where they can access. At the same time, I can have real-time customer support, right, seamlessly helping my users. In this case, the users will be able to integrate with the agent, have a conversation. There is an issue, I can just ask the question, hey, how do I fix this problem, right? How do we enable this update? How frequently gets it done? So we who do have these examples of agents already available. We are going to look at some of these in action as well. You can engage with your declarative agents with the same interface that you use for Microsoft 365 Copilot. This includes the Microsoft 365 interface, which you already use on a regular basis. And you can also access declarative agents by opening on the right-hand side of your menu. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. It's time to take a look at the options that we have in our Copilot. But before we do that, I want to talk about implementing declarative agents, because it does, as I mentioned, offer this familiar interface. Right? If I am looking at enhancing my enterprise knowledge, I have a seamless integration with my plugins, and also I want to be able to prioritize security, privacy, and compliance. If my users already been configured in the admin center, they have access to my tenant, only these documents, these locations, these teams, then Copilot is going to be bound, and of course, the agent is going to be bound to that as well. So let's take a look at some of these declarative agents in use. And here we are in Copilot. I can access Microsoft 365 Copilot on m365.cloud.microsoft. And in this case, we are using the chat. You notice here I have some conversation starters on Copilot. And on the right-hand side, I have my agents. This is the area of focus of this class, the declarative agents. You notice that I can, at any time in Copilot, I can get one of these suggestions, the prompts. These are conversation starters that I mentioned. We are going to do this in our lab number 1. Here, I can simply execute, and I will be able to execute that conversation. Now, this conversation is going to be based on which grounding. We're going to hear this term very well throughout this class. Grounding means the data is going to be ground on work, which means my tenant. So we are talking about my organization protected. If I have access to the data, Copilot, because you're working on my behalf. So in this case, I can summarize my meetings. I can look at a conversation. So I have these conversation starters. Or I can also have the data grounded on the web, where I can make questions and things, and we'll go and be able to reason with content from the web. Now, there are times when we are going to discuss this, when I want to create an agent. So I can have an opportunity to create an agent very easy. This for the business user. So let's say I have a document, or I have a website, or maybe a SharePoint site that I want to point in. The conversation and the reasoning will be grounded only on that data. So an example of that is, let's say on the easy spectrum, no configuration, no additional tools, I can simply come here to Microsoft Copilot and say, hey, I want to create an agent. This calls up the Copilot Studio, but a different angle from it, like an API, right? Not exactly the full spectrum of Copilot Studio, but allows me to create a declarative agent. In this case, I can simply tell Copilot what I want, and it will be creating the agent based on that. So I can come here and say, create a friendly agent to talk only about this document or this website or these components. And I can come to the configuration, and in the configuration, I can fully customize my agent. I can give it a name. I can also give it instructions like the system prompt of how it's going to behave, how it's going to respond. And then I can also add the knowledge. This is the grounding capability that we talked about, the RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, which means that I can point to, let's say, for example, SharePoint location. I have lots of files, or I have directories that I want to be able to use. So I can point this to those locations, grab specific content from SharePoint. Or I can also use location in my data that we have available. So in this example here, in Microsoft, we have already added a couple locations that I can use. I have some service catalogs, some enterprise websites that I can use. And lastly, I can also have the conversation starters. So I can add in here specific title for that conversation starter, and I can put the message, which will be the prompt that we presented to the user. So this is one way to create and publish agents that my colleagues can use. The second way for me to do that is, let's say I want to go directly to SharePoint. So I can open a SharePoint document or a group of documents, and I can say, you know what, I want to create an agent to reason within these documents. So now I can simply say, you know what, that would be a great idea to create a new agent for that, a Copilot agent. So I can do that. I can come to, in this case, SharePoint, and I can say, hey, I like this document directory, and I want to create an agent for. So I can select my document, or select the product here, and I can say, for this product, I want to be able to add an agent. So up here, you can see from the menu bar, create an agent. That is the simplest way to create an agent. Once I did that, I'm already telling Copilot, hey, this agent is grounded on this data. Let's go ahead and open the agent. And we'll see that the experience is going to be the same that we saw when I opened the Microsoft 365 Copilot, and I can begin to reason with that data. That means Copilot now created this agent, and here it is. I can summarize the content. I can begin to ask questions. Let's say, what do you know? And I'll begin to see that Copilot is going to reason with those documents and tell me content from there. So this is one way. Again, very easy for me to be able to create these agents from the SharePoint site. Now, we did mention that going up the scale for complexity of creating these agents, I can also create using Copilot Studio. This is the full spectrum of the application, allows me to create the agents. I can customize these agents. I can bring in some actions, not the plugin per se. I have connectors that I can use on that, but not the plugins. So as an example, I can get like a help desk. I can simply create a help desk or ask Copilot to create, based on that template, create an agent for me, right? That's another way for me to create an agent, use these agents. The advantage of using this one is that I can configure the agent, like I said, like I did before, name and actions and so forth, or I can simply say, use the default that's already there. Once the agent is configured, I can publish this agent and I can share with my team. Anyone with that link can open up and begin to use my agent. Now, as we go up the food chain, as we go up the complexity as well, I can leverage AI Foundry. Now, in this case, we are now going full complexity. I can choose the kind of LLM, not the standard LLM that is part of Copilot. I can choose the kind of actions, the APIs, the plugins, the models that I'm going to use, the application I'm going to publish. So these are ways for me to begin to build my agents. It's almost like if I'm building mini Copilots for me to use. These are the agents that most customers are going to be using. Again, from a very simplistic way with absolute no code all the way to fully configured with LLMs in specific modules that I can configure. All right, this is my overview. We are going to be covering the creation of these declarative agents. Most of it is going to stay in this area for simplicity. We're going to cover how to create the agents and publish them here in our chat. Particularly on the labs, we are going to go a little bit deeper because we are going to use Visual Studio, the teams, to be able to publish that from GitHub. Very easy, but again, focusing on this area and what Copilot already provides. Let's take a look. Now that we've seen Copilot interface and we saw where the agents are going to be located, particularly when we talk about the declarative agents, very low code or no code kind of configuration. Now, let's talk about the custom engine agents. We did mention that custom engine agents are advanced team bots, for example. They can use LLMs for dynamic user interactions. They also offer features like UI manipulation, also task execution, and content creation. Also streamlining workflow. So, custom engine agents do not require a Microsoft 365 license. Again, they are slightly different than the declarative agents we just spoke about. These are going to be a little more intricate. I would do more customization on those agents. So let's add some knowledge with the graph connectors. How is that done? What is the purpose of using the graph connector? So the graph connector, if you think about it, really enhances the Microsoft Copilot. Now we are talking about not just the data that's already pre-configured available to me, but now I can bring in external data sources. Maybe I have a CRM or I have some other content and I want to bring that knowledge into my Copilot. So this allows Copilot, in this case, to really access a diverse data set, provides that comprehensive insight of that data, and also improve user experience. Now, custom connectors can also be built using Microsoft Graph Connector API. IT admins, if that's a choice that I want to be able to make to integrate these into my Copilots, they can expand this native knowledge and availability for all users in their tenant. So you already have the tenant, you have the graph connectors, you already have graph working with your applications, your resources, your teams, your tools. Now you've got a connector that extends that into external data source. So this enhancement is transparent to the user. The user is already using the Copilot, using the connector. Now they can extend that. So no agent to install for them. Also, the knowledge is automatically tuned in, right? So I already have that capability built into that process. And users' permissions, any permissions to the data that I already have is also bound to that extension. So the graph connectors really gives us that extensibility capability for my connector. An example of that, we mentioned indexing specific data that the graph now has connection to. So Microsoft Graph and the Power Platform connectors enable data ingestion from various sources, really facilitating the unified data access and insights across Microsoft 365. So if I'm already using, let's say, Word or Excel or accessing content through Graph, that could be an external data sources, maybe, like I said, my CRM or a ticketing system or some other resources that the Graph has access. Now it's going to be seamless to us. And to facilitate this, to see these capabilities, the Graph Connector Gallery offers over 100 connectors for popular services. Let's take a look at the Graph Connector Gallery. This is the Microsoft Graph Connector Gallery. As I mentioned, it was created so you can have a large number of connectors ready to be consumed. In this example, you can see that I have collaboration and communication tools. I also have IT management. We have social networking. And we can access these. I can begin to see this collaboration and communication. You have the name of those connectors available to you. The publisher means who created, and the description. And if you want to be able to access those connectors, you can also do that from here. So this is the Graph Connector Gallery. Very extensive, over 100 connectors readily available for you to be consumed. Now let's discuss adding skills with plugins. So plugins are going to add skills to our agents. So in terms, plugins enable that declarative agent to interact with the system in real time. Now, they can access the information, retrieve data, and of course perform actions across apps, Microsoft 365 apps. Now, plugins for your Copilot includes the team message extension, and of course the API plugins, and lastly, the Copilot Studio actions. Now, the team message plugins is a very powerful one where it allows me to continue to work within Copilot in my Teams extension. So if you already have the Teams app, customers are using it, your teams, your users are excited about it, now they can continue to leverage Copilot in there and without having to leave the Teams application. Now, API plugins in Microsoft 365 enable, I would say, interactions with REST API. A little bit different than those pre-customized plugins that we saw like the Teams. So they provide OpenAI description. I would say, in this case, I'll be able to get the plugin manifest and see this configuration. I can get examples. Let's say I want to create a budget app, a budget API. I can query those budgets. So in this case, it allows me to build configuration with adaptive cards that users can simply click on it, the prompts are ready, and I can consume that, right? So I have structured responses within my Copilot. So basically what we are going to be doing is leveraging the capability of Copilot, but build access through the APIs. If I'm using the API, that means I can use different configuration. This is where I can begin to look at more customized approach to my Copilot. I'm still not bringing in my LLMs and customizing to that depth of knowledge, but I'm customizing the views and giving my users that capability as well. And finally, let's discuss the Copilot Studio Actions. As we mentioned, Copilot Studio Actions plug in into the Microsoft 365 to extend the Copilot skills. Now, leveraging Microsoft business applications, it is consistent with Microsoft 365. So if we think about, if I look at Microsoft Dynamics 365 or Microsoft Power Platform, actions for Microsoft Copilot and the Power Platform leverage Dynamic as well. And of course, the Power Platform components. This allows me to have this integrated capability for the automation. So if I have Power Automate flows, for example, I have prompts that really define the specific business behavior, I can leverage those in Microsoft Copilot. So the Power Platform connectors really enhance the Microsoft 365 capability. It really allows you to integrate with various services and performs custom action. And of course, the accessibility of diverse data types. Now, notice that unlike the graph connectors, these support real-time data retrieval with read-write actions. So in this case, if I want to be able to open a ticket, I want to be able to create a ticket, I can do those with the actions. So I have a graph connector that's simply able to allow me to access a resource. And now I have a Copilot Studio action that allows me to, in real time, be able to send content. Maybe I want to retrieve a table with a user, if a user is looking for a ticket number, right? And be able to send data back. So the read-write, this is going to be the most critical aspect of that. Copilot actions to build upon those plugins. Now that we have completed this, we review the Copilot agents, and review the actions as well. It's time for a quick quiz. So I have a quiz now to be able to do a knowledge check on what we have covered so far. But this time, we are going to leverage Copilot for these quizzes. Let's do this in real time. So here it is, the real-time quiz using Copilot. And the quiz is going to be, well, we're going to leverage Copilot. As an expert in Microsoft Copilot, create 3 multiple-choice questions on Copilot extensibility, agents, declarative agents, custom engine agents, connectors, and plugins. Ask me basically all questions at the same time, wait for my response, explain the correct answer briefly, and then ask the next question. So from now on, when I need to learn something, I am going to leverage a prompt like this that builds a knowledge check instantaneous. So let's run this prompt and see what we get as a knowledge check. Are you ready? Let's do it. Okay, here we are back in Copilot. In the prompt area, we are going to paste our prompt. And let's execute. There it is. Question number 1, question number 2, and question number 3. First question, Copilot extensibility. Which of the following best describes the purpose of Copilot extensibility? A, to limit the functionality of Copilot to, let's say, predefined tasks. B, to allow users to customize and extend Copilot capability. Or C, to restrict Copilot integration with other applications. And finally, D, to enhance Copilot user interface design. All right, for this one, it seems to me that the Copilot extensibility is going to be based on allow users to customize and extend Copilot capability. Let's put B on that one. Excellent. Number 2, declarative agents. What is the key characteristics of a declarative agent in Copilot? First, A, they require extensive coding to implement. Ooh, that's kind of opposite of what we discussed before, isn't it? They operate based on predefined rules and conditions. Also, they are designed to handle real-time data processing. And lastly, they focus on natural language understanding. It seems to me that the B, again, is the correct one, right? They operate based on predefined rules and conditions. Let's put B on that. And question number 3, custom engine agents. What is the primary advantage of using custom engine agents? First, they provide a fixed set of functionalities. B, they allow for integration with third-party APIs and services. C, they are limited to internal Microsoft services. And D, they simplify the user interface design. So in this one, it seems to me that C is the correct one, right? No, B again. They allow integration with third-party APIs and services. Does that sound right? Let's use it. Let's go for C on this one. And now, let's check. Remember, if we got it all right, it's going to say great job. If we missed one, which could potentially be the case in here, we are going to get the correct answer. So let's check it out. So for the first one, Copilot extensibility, your answer was B. Your answer was B. There we go. Allow users to customize Copilot. Correct answer is B. Perfect. Question number 2. Your answer was B. To operate based on predefined rules and conditions. We got that one right as well. Excellent. So explanation, declarative agents in Copilot work based on predefined rules and conditions. And C, we mentioned that custom engine agents, they are limited to internal Microsoft services. That's not correct. So B is the correct one again. They allow for integration with third-party APIs. I did that on purpose, by the way, so we can see when we get an answer that is not correct, Copilot is going to correct us. So in this case, the explanation is there as well. The primary advantage of using custom engine agents in Copilot is that their ability to integrate with third-party APIs and services. So in the future, when you want to begin to learn or quiz yourself, here is an example of a great prompt to help you do that. So in summary, from this first learning path, we noticed that organizations face challenges in unlocking AI value. And that's common across the board. So increasing productivity and reducing cost, that's exactly what they want to be able to do. So workers sometimes struggle with managing workloads. Microsoft 365 Extensibility really helps leveraging AI for a better business process, so you can begin to automate these capabilities. Personalized support, automation, extend your Copilot with agents, connectors, plugins, really address these challenges for your customers. So we have a discussion, we talked about the agents, we talked about the declarative agents. They are built using custom knowledge, skills, and grounding on your own data. Facilitate smoother collaboration, and of course, increase productivity. We talked about the custom agents in this case. These custom engine agents are developed using custom foundational models and orchestrations. Right? They advance these capabilities. They provide this AI, UI, user interface manipulation, task execution, and of course, content creation. We also talked about the connectors. We mentioned about the graph connectors and the Power Platform. These connectors really enable you to extend this capability, bring in external data, be able to have a conversation with those external data to your current environment. And finally, we talked about the plugins. We discussed the action for declarative plugins for that automation. We talked about the API plugins. And finally, we discussed the Copilot Studio actions as well. So in this module, we learned how Copilot and agents collaborate to create personalized assistant, the types and the capabilities of the agents, and how the grounding of this agent and the ground of this, the responses coming from these agents are going to be based on multiple enterprise data sources. We'll now take a 10-minute break, and when we return, we are going to continue on our module. We're going to learn how to choose the Microsoft 365 extensibility and development path.